over to you, Ed.
I think I got it. All right, I disabled the video in here, but this is the area where you're seeing us talk right now. Let me kind of explain how everything works. There is a waiting room. Some of you guys were in the waiting room seeing how that works, and it automatically refreshes into this. But let's say I'm 10 minutes late for the webinar. Well, the webinar video is going to start 10 minutes into the video. So it's going to give the impression that they just missed everything, and they're probably going to want to see the replay, but it acts just like a webinar. It also has attendance that constantly moves and changes. You can set the max attendance, minimum attendance. It gives the impression that you're connecting here. You got a good connection, medium connection. And you might have noticed that I was actually responding to you guys when you guys were asking questions. Well, that gives you the impression that's a live webinar, and it's probably why you guys thought it was live. There's actually a pane in my admin where I can actually respond live to all your questions. I'll show that to you here in a second. You can drip. Actually, you can elect to show all chats all questions that you've answered from the webinar will instantly appear in this box, and then the admin chats where I push you links and stuff will appear here. I can push you up to 3 contents in one CTA. This is a full. What you see is what you get editor inside of the in the admin. I'll show you, and these will drip based on the seconds after the webinar starts. So I'll jump into it, and I'll show you the admin.
Yeah, Ed, say that again, man. That's how powerful that dripping on the timing. Just so they get that.
Oh yeah, you can. Dripping content's huge because just like when I said, "Hey, I'm going to drop this link on how to ask a question inside our new webinar system," you get access to that link right at the moment. So it gives you the impression that I'm actually doing it. It adds more realism to the webinar itself. I don't think many of you. I mean. We probably can't take a vote, but we could probably, yeah, I guess we could take a vote because we can always respond. Vote, put 1 inside the answer box if you were fooled, put 2 if you weren't fooled, and be totally honest. And then we'll give the results at the end of the webinar. So this is the admin here. The first thing you see is our templates, and then we see our last 10 leads and our live questions. I guess if I go back here, if I ask a live question, so this is one of you guys asking a question, and it'll refresh automatically so you can ask another question. If I go back here to the admin, what's going to happen is at the very bottom it's going to refresh the live chat. And we'll give that a second here to refresh. So on this pane you get to see all your templates. You can paginate them. You're probably going to have several in here at one time. Your last 10 leads or registrations will appear in this box. You can do live searching, and there's the question that I put in here. It refreshes like every 20 seconds. I can elect to ignore it if it's just like a smart-ass comment, or I can actually respond and say, okay, this is cool, confirm. So now I'm giving you even more impressions that this is a real webinar. So if I jump back here, I don't know if this is going to work with the timing, but what's going to happen is it'll actually pop up here on the next refresh. So that's just the front of it. We have our manage. We can copy with a click. Just click on copy. We actually drip test or split test these campaigns, but we're going to actually add a different feature the way you can split test it, and that's going to be in the coming week. We're also adding the ability to use live webinars with Google Hangouts and YouTube, and Chris will get into that more at the end of the call here. We can set our schedule. We can get our leads and we can delete. Let me go ahead and manage this particular one here. We have our live events. This is the event you guys registered for. It shows us how many registered, how many attended, and gives us the status. If it's under pending status, that means it's either running or it's in the waiting room. If it says ended, the webinar is obviously closed. You can customize. If I go to settings here, I can customize the whole admin here. Do the background. Admin any way I want it to look. If I go back here, I can customize the look of the actual webinar page itself. I can customize the background. This is the background here. I can customize the color of the halo that's around these boxes. I can also customize the mini 1 pixel border that's around it just to give it a little enhancement.
Awesome.
At the end of the day, it looks pretty damn sweet. I've played around with it probably the last 4 or 5 hours, and I've made some pretty cool looking pages to match any theme that goes with your business. So we have a registration page here. This is all what you see is what you get editor. It tells the time, and it is conducive, not conducive, it's exact to the server specs. So whatever you set the settings inside the admin for your time zone, everybody must meet at that time. And it'll actually send a reminder. If I come in here and register, you'll see here, congratulations, your seat is reserved. Now, if I registered during the webinar, I can go right to the live webinar page. But if I didn't, I can add it to my calendar to remind me. So we got the Outlook calendar, Google Calendar, Yahoo, Hotmail, iCal, and Facebook events. So pretty cool way to get people into the webinar, and it sends them email confirmations, and it also plays those reminders in these other
And
APIs as well.
You just acquired a new lead, guys. People get clouded because they're so scared about actually doing the webinar. They don't realize that on the front side of a webinar system, you're building yourself a list of prospects that are interested in, you know, what you're going to be presenting. So, and all that's being stored back here. All this is a valuable list of prospects. Lead generation tool, you need to really think about that as a big part of this whole thing. It's not just, I'm trying to sell on a webinar, I got to sell something on the webinar. Even if you don't, you're building up a nice list here.
Exactly. Also, when you collect those leads, you can get their first name, last name, phone number, email. You can tell if they've attended the webinar or not. And if they attended the webinar, it
I love
tracks
that.
the minutes that they were in the webinar. And it also tracks how many minutes they watched the replay. So now you can come back. Let's say if you do a follow-up with, let's say, Joe Customer here, and he says, yeah, I watched your full webinar, and it was a bunch of BS. Well, you can come here and say, well, you only watched 1 minute of it.
I love it.
So back to webinars here. Let me click on Manage. We have our general settings here. We have our title, subtitle. We have our description. You can put images, videos, all that stuff in here too. The presenter name, the company name, support link. You see all that stuff right now on your pane, on your webinar pane, right, that you're looking at right now. Media settings. This is the video that's inside of the pane that you're looking at right now, inside of the webinar, the box. It's kind of hard talking in past tense here, isn't it? Max attendees. This is the max, the fake counter you see at the very top right. This is the max attendees that counter will ever reach. Our minimum attendees is the minimum it'll never drop to. And then let's say if somebody joins while the webinar is going, this is how many show in the room, and it'll go up or down based on that number. And what's cool is if you set the exact time here, let's say my video is exactly 45 minutes, and you set this to start at like 4 o'clock p.m. and end at 4:45 p.m., this number is actually, you're going to see at the end of the webinar here, the number is going to start dropping like people are leaving the webinar. It's pretty sick.
Nobody has that, I can tell you that.
Next is our drip content. We can choose our title. This is the tab title that you're seeing here. And then the HTML that's inside of that tab. Now, let's say if I left any one of these two blank here, it wouldn't even show that tab. So that's how you disable the drip content. But I got this set to as soon as the webinar starts, 10 seconds later, it drips this content. If I want to drip the second piece of content, 20 seconds later. That's 20 seconds from the start of the webinar, 30 seconds from the start of it. Then the call to action, 40 seconds. If you wanted to do your call to action an hour later, just take 60 minutes times 60 seconds, 3,600, you put 3,600 in here. And that's when the action would be revealed. Next is our question and answers. You see here we have our question that was asked that I did a demo here. And if I want to make that part of the new system, so next time this webinar runs, I want it to be part of the questions that appear for you guys. All I got to do is put some seconds in here. So appear after 23 seconds and just let go, and it automatically updates. We can choose to have new Q&As that we can make up on our own, our question, our answer, and then our seconds from the start of the webinar. And that creates static, fake questions and answers. Then we have our notification centers for AR here. And then we can send our reminders 1 hour before up to 24 hours before the webinar. And that's that. I think I've already showed you the lead.
Yeah, guys, so keep that, you got the whole reminder system here. This is copying pretty much, you know, without really copying, but all the functions of a well-known webinar system out there. So
yeah, there's so many features I haven't even talked about, but you're going to see inside the training. If you compare this with those other two systems that Chris showed you, even the one that I talked about, you're going to see that this is actually a better system. And at the end of the day, if you go and you YouTube any videos made for those systems about the training for how to set up their webinar page and all that stuff, and look at that webinar page versus our webinar page, you're going to see a huge difference. One's going to look like a sales page, one's going to look like a real webinar.
You're not going to be paying $500 either, and a monthly on top of it to do live webinars.
Exactly. And then let me show you one more thing that I'm working on. As I told you before, I was working on the split testing, but I'm working right now on, I should have this done in a couple days, is the actual live webinar. So if I come over here, I'm going to jump in here and just type in a few extra digits, and hopefully you guys will want to watch some QVC. This is actually a live feed from YouTube. So now, because this is Google Hangouts, people do not have to register with the Google Hangouts to watch your video, or not to watch your video, but watch your live stream. They can register in here and watch your live stream, so it becomes a real webinar system.
Awesome.
Working on this now, and this should be done probably in a couple days.
Keep in mind, this is a video inside of a video recording, so it's not going to play clearly in the demo.
Exactly. And what you've seen was actually a real live stream inside of the webinar system.
Another thing, before you go to the next feature, Ed, I want to add.
I think I pretty much got it covered, man. We don't want to make this call too long. So whatever you got to say, let's hurry up and close it up. I don't think we can probably fake any more than we already have.
We've done some great faking here. Yeah, I hopefully faked you guys out. But there's another point that I wanted to make is how many times, I'm not asking you because this is not a live webinar, but I know you've been on webinars before where there's been technical difficulties, right? You've had issues. That's a big problem, even with the well-known webinar system.